Clapperboard, he was bigger than expected. And I couldn't stop him from going further. Small Blue Diamond Section 1. The Unexpected Guest, 500 words. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. Just me, a borrowed house, and the kind of silence you can't find in your own space. My best friend Rachel had rushed out of town 2 days earlier to handle a family emergency, and she insisted I stay at her place while she was gone. I had no plans, just a book, some takeout, and the comfort of being alone. By Saturday night, the rain had rolled in. Heavy, persistent, and oddly calming. I curled up on her couch with a blanket and a steaming cup of chai, the city lights muted behind foggy windows. For a moment everything felt still. Then came the knock. First I thought I imagined it. But it came again, louder this time. 3 sharp raps on the front door. I wasn't expecting anyone. Rachel hadn't mentioned visitors, and it was nearly 9:30 p.m. I hesitated, my fingers tightening around the mug. When I finally opened the door, I felt like the air got sucked out of the room. There he stood, Liam. Rachel's ex. Soaking wet. Hair messy from the rain. And still, somehow, annoyingly perfect. He gave a crooked, apologetic smile. Hey. Didn't know Rachel was gone. Just came to grab my toolbox from the shed. I left it before we broke up. I blinked, caught between confusion and something I didn't want to name. She's not here, I said. Emergency trip. But you can come in. You're soaked. He stepped inside with a quiet thanks, wiping his boots on the mat. The scent of cold rain and leather filled the space around him. I hated how familiar it felt. We stood in the entryway for a beat too long. You look different, he said, breaking the silence. New haircut. I laughed nervously. 4 months ago. He grinned. Still suits you. We made our way into the kitchen. I offered him a towel, then tea. He accepted both. And just like that, we were sitting at the island, 2 cups between us, the storm outside pushing us closer than we had any business being. We talked, or rather skimmed through safe topics. Work. The weather. His dog Toby. I tried not to notice how his wet shirt clung to his chest, outlining every detail I shouldn't be paying attention to. But it was impossible to ignore. As he reached across the counter for the sugar, his arm brushed mine. Simple touch, casual maybe. But my breath hitched anyway. I told myself it was the storm, the flicker of candlelight, the quietness of the house. But deep down, I knew something had changed the moment I opened that door. Liam wasn't just Rachel's ex anymore. He was something dangerous, something tempting. And I didn't send him away. White heavy check mark. Would you like me to continue with Section 2, the confession game, next? Absolutely. Here's the complete Section 2, 500 words, of your story. Clapperboard, he was bigger than expected. And I couldn't stop him from going further. Small Blue Diamond Section 2. The confession game, 500 words. The rain hadn't let up. In fact, it grew heavier, like it wanted to trap us in that moment in that house. Liam stayed longer than either of us expected. 1 cup of tea turned into 2. The conversation, once polite and casual, started dipping into old memories. Mostly his. Mostly about Rachel. I was a mess after we split, he said quietly. His thumb running along the rim of the mug. Not because I didn't see it coming, but because I didn't want to admit she was already gone. Emotionally, I mean. I stayed silent, unsure if I should respond. But his vulnerability caught me off guard. You were always the quiet one, he added, looking at me. But I always felt like you noticed more than you let on. He wasn't wrong. I had noticed things, too many things. Like the way Rachel sometimes treated him like a phase instead of a person. Or how he looked at her like she held the whole world, while she rarely looked back. And even more shamefully, I noticed how magnetic he was. How his voice slowed when he was tired. How he laughed at his own bad jokes. How I felt when he stood too close. Pushed those thoughts down. Always. But tonight I didn't have the strength. To ease the tension, I reached for the deck of cards on the kitchen shelf. Let's play something. You look like you could use a distraction. A smirk. Poker. Or something more dangerous. I raised an eyebrow. How dangerous? Truth or dare, he said. The way he said it made me laugh and shiver. Fine, I agreed. But no dares. Just truth. I'm not climbing any rooftops tonight. He leaned in. Deal. Started innocent. What's your biggest fear? Have you ever cheated? When was your last kiss? Answers came easy at first. Then, his question shifted. Did you ever think about me? Like not as Rachel's boyfriend, just me. Froze. My heart jumped up into my throat. He didn't ask it playfully. He asked it like he needed to know. I stared at him, then looked away. Yes, I admitted. He said it. One syllable that carried years of denial. His expression didn't change. But his eyes held mine in a way that made the room feel smaller. Me too, he said softly. Thought about you. More than I should have. The silence stretched between us. Heavy. Fragile. Somewhere in the background, thunder rolled. But in that moment, the loudest thing in the room was my heartbeat. I wasn't sure what line we were standing on, or if we'd already crossed it. All I knew was, I didn't want him to leave. Not yet. White heavy check mark ready for section 3. Crossing the line. It's the emotional climax, where everything changes. Clapperboard. He was bigger than expected. And I couldn't stop him from going further. Small blue diamond section 3. Crossing the line, 500 words. I don't know who moved first. Maybe it was him. Maybe it was me. But somewhere between that last confession and the silence that followed, we were suddenly closer. Too close. His hand rested near mine on the counter. I could feel the heat radiating off his skin. 1,000 thoughts raced through my head, each one trying to outshout the next. This is wrong. This is dangerous. This is real. He looked at me, really looked. Like he wasn't seeing Rachel's friend anymore. Like he was seeing the version of me I kept hidden from everyone. I shouldn't be here, he whispered. I nodded slowly. You shouldn't. He didn't move. Neither did I. When his fingers finally touched mine, it was like an electric current. A soft brush, nothing more. But my whole body reacted. He hesitated, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. Instead, I turned my hand over, letting our palms meet. You feel that? He asked. I nodded again. Too much. He stepped closer. The space between us evaporated. His other hand brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, and the world blurred around the edges. I could hear the rain outside still pounding, but inside, everything slowed. My breathing, my thoughts, even the guilt. He leaned in, lips just a breath from mine. You can tell me to stop, he said. His voice was low but steady. I will. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because I didn't want him to. The kiss started slow, hesitant. But once it began, it deepened quickly. There was no awkwardness, no pause. Just heat and want and years of unsaid things between us. He was overwhelming. Bigger than I remembered. Not just physically, but in presence, in energy, in intensity. Every touch, every movement felt intentional, like he was searching for something in me that had long been buried. I let him push deeper, emotionally, physically, into a space I never allowed anyone to enter. I wasn't just kissing him. I was giving in to everything I had tried so hard to suppress. His hand slid to my waist, pulling me closer. My fingers found the hem of his soaked shirt, tugging it free. Skin met skin and time stopped. Somewhere in the back of my mind, Rachel's name echoed like a warning siren. But it was faint, muffled by the sound of his heartbeat against mine. We stumbled back toward the couch, tangled in emotion and rain-soaked clothes. I kept waiting for the guilt to stop me, for my conscience to scream loud enough. But it never did. Instead, I found myself whispering, I've wanted this longer than I should have. He met my gaze, his own eyes searching. So have I. And just like that we crossed the line, not with recklessness but with clarity. with full awareness of the consequences, and no intention of turning back. White heavy checkmark ready for Section 4. The aftermath, the resolution and emotional fallout. Before watching Section 4, please subscribe our channel. Clapperboard, he was bigger than expected, and I couldn't stop him from going further. Small blue diamond Section 4. The aftermath, 500 words. The rain had stopped by morning. The silence it left behind felt heavier than the storm. I woke up alone. The other side of the bed was empty, the sheets still warm where he'd been. For a moment I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the regret to crash down on me. But it didn't. Not at first. I got up slowly, wrapping the blanket around me, unsure if I was trying to shield myself from the cold, or from the truth. I walked into the kitchen, and there it was. His note. Just one line. Last night was real. I just didn't want to make it harder by staying. No name. No promises. Just honesty. I stared at the paper, heart pounding. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to feel used. But I wasn't. 'Cause I understood. What we did, what we allowed to happen, couldn't become anything more. It existed in a moment. And that moment had passed. But that didn't mean it hadn't changed everything. I showered, dressed, and tried to erase any trace of him. The cups in the sink. The extra pillow on the bed. My own reflection, which now stared back with different eyes. By late afternoon, Rachel was home. She hugged me, tired but smiling. "Thank you for watching the place," she said. "You're a lifesaver." I swallowed the lump in my throat. Guilt settled like fog in my chest. She didn't know. She might never know. But that didn't make me innocent. As we caught up on the couch, she talked about her family, the funeral, the chaos. I nodded, smiled, responded when needed. But I felt distant, like I was watching myself from the outside. At one point she mentioned Liam. "He texted actually," she said casually. "Said he stopped by for his tools. Did he see you?" Pause. "Yeah," I said. "Just for a few minutes." She nodded. "Good. I think he's finally moving on." I looked down at my tea, hands trembling slightly. I wanted to say something. I wanted to confess. But what would I even say? That I crossed a line she didn't even know existed. That her ex held me like I belonged to him, even just for one night. So I said nothing. Later that evening, after she went to bed, I stood by the window, staring out into the quiet street. The storm had passed. The world looked clean, reset. But I wasn't. I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. Not with hate or betrayal, but with aching, undeniable need. He was more than I expected. And I let him go further than I should have. I didn't regret it. But I couldn't forget it either. Some stories never get told out loud. They just stay with you. Heavy, unspoken, and unforgettable. White heavy check mark. Your full 2,000-word story is complete. Would you like a voiceover script, video thumbnail prompt, or title variations for YouTube next?